Hill House, a shadowy monolith looming over the town, a place where whispers of the supernatural echo through its abandoned halls. This was the daunting task that lay before Detective James, a man whose belief in the tangible often overpowered the tales of the unseen. Yet, the chilling call about a possible haunting at this forsaken mansion had stirred an unsettling feeling deep within him. As he drew closer to the ominous structure, a bone-chilling draft swept through, causing the hairs on the back of his neck to stand on end. An old man, Mr. Jenkins, the caretaker, greeted him with a wary nod, the creases on his face telling 1,000 untold stories. His eyes spoke volumes of the eerie occurrences that seemed to have become a part of his existence. The house, with its creaking floorboards and shifting shadows, was a world in itself, carrying secrets that echoed through its empty corridors. Mr. Jenkins, with a voice as old as the house itself, spun tales of the uncanny happenings. Objects that moved on their own, strange noises that filled the silence of the night, and ghostly apparitions that peered through the dusty windows. James, with his detective skepticism, listened, his eyes scanning the antiquated surroundings. His logical mind questioned the stories, yet there was an air of intrigue that loomed around him. He decided to immerse himself in the mystery, to spend a night within the haunting walls of Hill House, to unravel the truth from the tales. As the sun bid its goodbye, painting the sky in hues of twilight, James took his place in a time-worn armchair in the parlor. His senses heightened, his mind alert, he prepared himself for a night of vigilant observation. Hours ticked by, the house bathed in an eerie silence, the only sound being the rhythmic ticking of an old clock. Just when he was on the verge of dismissing all as a hoax, he heard it. A soft, eerie whisper, echoing from the abyss of the house, piercing the silence. As night drew closer, James, armed with his skepticism, decided to spend the night in the eerie house. As midnight approached, an eerie silence fell over Hill House, broken only by the creaking floorboards. Detective James, nestled in a time-worn armchair, could feel the pulse of the house beating in sync with his own heart. His eyes were drawn to the shifting shadows, his ears tuned to the faintest of sounds. He was not a man of superstition, but tonight, skepticism was the furthest thing from his mind. The grandfather clock struck 12, its chimes echoing through the vacant halls. Then, just as the last chime faded into the silence, it came. A soft, spectral whisper. It was as though the wind itself had found a voice that seemed to seep from the very walls of Hill House. A surge of adrenaline swept over James. He rose from the armchair, his every instinct alight. Following the whisper was like chasing an elusive melody, a song only he could hear. It took him up the grand staircase, through a maze of forgotten rooms, and finally to the attic. The attic was a world untouched by time, shrouded in cobwebs and dust. A beam of moonlight filtered through a cracked window, casting a ghostly glow on a hidden room. Inside, amidst the forgotten relics of a bygone era, lay a diary. Its leather-bound cover was worn, its pages yellowed by the relentless march of time. James picked up the diary, its weight heavy with untold stories. As he flipped through the pages, he could almost hear the echoes of laughter, the whispers of secrets, the cries of despair. The diary was not just a record of events, but a window into a life that had once been lived within these very walls. In the attic, a dusty diary lay, its pages a testament to a tragic tale buried in time. As he delved deeper into the diary, James could feel the house breathe around him, each whisper, each creak, a stitch in the fabric of Hill House's haunting narrative. And so, under the silver glow of the moon, Detective James began to unravel the mystery of Hill House, one midnight whisper at a time. As James flipped through the yellowed pages, he was drawn into a tale of love, betrayal, and murder. From the diary's worn-out entries, he pieced together a tragic story that unfolded many years ago, right within the walls of Hill House. Once upon a time, Hill House was home to a young woman named Emily and her husband Jonathan. The early days of their marriage were filled with joy and laughter, echoing through the house's grand halls. Emily's love for Jonathan was unwavering, but as the seasons changed, so did Jonathan. He grew distant, his once warm eyes now cold, his affectionate touch replaced with a chilling aloofness. Emily, with her heart heavy and her mind clouded with suspicions, confronted Jonathan. She accused him of infidelity, her voice trembling but resolute. However, instead of remorse or denial, what met her accusation was a sudden and terrible rage. In the heat of the moment, Jonathan's anger turned deadly, and Emily's fate was sealed. Jonathan, in his deranged state, bricked up Emily's lifeless body in the attic, her final resting place within the house she once loved. The once vibrant Hill House was now a tomb, a silent witness to a heinous crime. Emily's laughter and joy were replaced with an eerie silence, her presence reduced to a mere whisper in the wind. As James read Emily's tragic tale, a chill ran down his spine. The creaking floorboards, the moving shadows, the ghostly figures, it all began to make a ghastly sense. Emily wasn't just a part of Hill House's history, she was its haunting presence, a tormented spirit seeking justice for her untimely demise. Horrified but determined, James resolved to bring justice to Emily's spirit. He closed the diary, his mind filled with a newfound resolve. No longer was this about proving or disproving the existence of the supernatural. It was about righting a wrong, about giving a voice to the voiceless. It was about setting Emily's spirit free, once and for all. With the dawn came a team of experts, their arrival stirring the silence that had settled over Hill House. The investigators, armed with their forensic tools, made their way to the attic, a place that bore silent testimony to a centuries-old crime. The air was thick with dust and the grim anticipation of what was to come. They worked meticulously, their expertise evident in their swift and systematic approach. And then, just as the diary had described, they discovered Emily's remains, her body bricked up in the cold, dark attic. The grim discovery sent a shudder down everyone's spine, a chilling reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded in this very house. With Emily's remains finally found and respectfully laid to rest, the haunting ceased. The eerie whispers, the moving shadows, the chilling apparitions, all were silenced. Hill House, once a beacon of fear and mystery, seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, its dark aura replaced with a sense of peace. Yet as James walked away from Hill House, a nagging doubt tugged at him. Something didn't quite add up. His instincts led him back to the attic, where he discovered a hidden passage leading to a secret room. Inside he found props and devices, the tools of a skilled illusionist. The realization hit him like a bolt out of the blue. The haunting was a carefully orchestrated charade. Confronting Mr. Jenkins, the caretaker, the truth came tumbling out. The haunting was his doing, a web of deception spun to drive people away from Hill House. His motive? A rumored treasure buried somewhere on the property? The old man's confession filled the room, his dreams of wealth leading him down a path of deceit and manipulation. Mr. Jenkins, the puppeteer of the haunting, was finally unmasked. His arrest marked the end of Hill House's haunting. With the truth revealed and justice served, James could finally leave Hill House behind. Yet as he drove away, Emily's tragic tale lingered in his mind, a haunting reminder of the mysteries that often hide in plain sight. With Mr. Jenkins behind bars, peace finally returned to Hill House. The once eerie silence of the mansion was replaced by a serene calm. James could feel it, a weight lifted off the house, as if it was finally able to breathe after a long time. The spectral whispers, the shifting shadows, the inexplicable chill in the air, all had ceased. James, the skeptic detective, had solved the mystery that had plagued the town for years. He had unmasked the man behind the supernatural facade, Mr. Jenkins, the caretaker. The puppet master of the grand illusion was now confined to a prison cell, his dreams of finding a hidden treasure buried in the property shattered. The haunting of Hill House was no more than a carefully orchestrated ruse, a tale spun from the threads of deceit and greed. James had dissected the web of lies piece by piece, leading him to the truth. The discovery of Emily's remains, the diary detailing her tragic tale, and finally, the unearthing of Mr. Jenkins's elaborate charade, all culminated in the resolution of the Hill House enigma. James stood at the threshold of the mansion one last time. The house, once imposing and ominous, now stood silent, its dark secrets laid bare. He turned his back to it, his duty done, his mission completed. As he walked towards his car, he cast one last glance over his shoulder. The house stood still, its windows reflecting the early morning sun, its doors closed to its past. He got into his car, the engine roared to life, breaking the silence of the dawn. The rearview mirror framed the house as he drove away, leaving behind the mystery that had consumed him. But as he drove away, a question lingered. Had he truly laid Emily's spirit to rest? Or was her ghost still waiting in the shadows? The specter of Hill House, Emily, was she free? Or was she still trapped in the walls of the house, her voice silenced, but her presence lingering? The resolution brought peace, but the question remained, echoing in the silence of the Hill House.